2020 at 9 a.m. And will you call roll, please?
Yes, just one moment. Commissioner Snyder,
Here.
Glazer,
Here.
Terwilliger,
She's
Commissioner
muted.
Terwilliger.
I think she's still here.
She's
She
here.
is.
I
She's
just,
muted.
I'll just mark her. Commissioner Geisler,
Here.
Dorian,
Here.
Nosen,
Here.
Chairman Bone.
Here.
7 present, 0 absent.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask Commissioner Terwilliger to lead us in the invocation and pledge, please.
Heavenly Father, we pray for blessings of wisdom, faith, and hope for today's meeting. And as we proceed forward through each day, we are most thankful to have weathered a 500-year flood without any fatalities. Thank you for protecting our residents, and thank you to local first responders for their heroic efforts to evacuate lake areas in the middle of the night. Also, we are thankful for the incredible leadership of our city and county employees, including our IT, emergency health department, and administration, including our own Bridget Granson and Jessica Gilkins. And we are thankful for the return of our employees, Lord. Today, there is much to do. We pray for your guidance as we move forward, and we pray for your blessings on our community, state, and nation. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mark, you need to unmute.
Sorry about that. I didn't unmute. I don't know what happened there. Anyhow, next is the approval of the minutes for May 19th, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adopt the minutes.
So we have support. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Okay, we will approve the minutes for May 19th, 2020 and move on to acceptance of the bills.
We have no bills today, Mark.
Okay, well, that makes that easy. We have no special program of the day. So at this point, I'd like to ask if there's any public comment on anything that's not on the agenda. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, Ann, would you read committee report number 1, please?
Dated June 4th, 2020, properly addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, we, your Administration and Operations Committee, recommend approval of a confidentiality agreement with the Midland County Fairgrounds as it pertains to the review of their financial information. Respectfully submitted, James Geisler, Chairperson, Scott Nosen, Eric Dorian, Administration and Operations Committee.
Commissioner Geisler? You have to unmute, Jim.
There I did. Mr. Chairman, the A&O Committee recommends adoption of agenda item 53-5-20.
Thank you. Is there any public discussion? Commissioner comments? And call roll, please.
Commissioner Glazer,
Yes.
Terwilliger,
Yes.
Geisler,
Yes.
Dorian,
Yes.
Nosen,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Chairman Bone.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, motion carries.
Committee report number 2, please.
Dated June 4th, properly addressed, ladies and gentlemen, we, your Administration and Operations Committee, recommend approval of a memorandum of understanding with McLaren Bay Regional Hospital. This MOU grants Midland County the temporary use of McLaren's morgue facility, and it is effective as of May 27, 2020, and so long as the Mid-Michigan Health Facility morgue is inoperable. Respectfully submitted, James Geisler, Chairperson, Scott Noson, Eric Dorian, Administration and Operations Committee.
Commissioner Geisler.
Mr. Chairman, the A and O Committee recommends the adoption of agenda item 56-5-20.
Is there any public comment on this item? Any commissioner discussion? And call roll, please.
Commissioner Twilliger,
Yes.
Geisler,
Yes.
Dorian,
Yes.
Noson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Glazer,
Yes.
Chairman Bone.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, motion carries.
Committee report number 3, please.
Dated June 4th, 2020, properly addressed, ladies and gentlemen. We, your Administration and Operations Committee and the Finance Committee have reviewed the amendment to the 2019-2020 Comprehensive Agreement with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The term of this agreement is from October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2020. This amendment provides for an additional $62,000 in funding for the Midland County Health Department for facilitating the delivery of health services, specifically for COVID-19 response. We recommend approval of the amendment to the grant and that the Administrator Controller be authorized to amend the 2020 county budget accordingly. Respectfully submitted, James Geisler, Chairperson, Scott Noson, Eric Dorian, Administration and Operations Committee, Scott Noson, Chairperson, James Geisler, Jeanette Snyder, Finance Committee.
Commissioner Geisler.
Mr. Chairman, the A and O Committee recommends adoption of agenda item 51-5-20.
Commissioner Noson.
Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee also recommends adoption of agenda item 51-5-20.
Is there any public comment on this item? Is there any commissioner discussion? And call roll, please.
Commissioner Geisler,
Yes.
Dorian,
Yes.
Noson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Glazer,
Yes.
Terwilliger,
Yes.
Chairman Bone.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, motion carries.
Committee report number 4, please.
Dated June 4th, 2020, properly addressed, ladies and gentlemen. We, your Administration and Operations Committee and the Finance Committee have reviewed the grant award from the Roland M. Gerstacker Foundation in the amount of $200,000. The grant funds will be used to support the construction of the multi-generational space at Pinecrest Farms. We recommend approval of this grant and that the Administrator Controller be authorized to make any necessary budget adjustments. Respectfully submitted, James Geisler, Chairperson, Scott Noson, Eric Dorian, Administration and Operations Committee, Scott Noson, Chairperson, James Geisler, Jeanette Snyder, Finance Committee.
Commissioner Geisler.
Commissioner Geisler just had to step out.
Okay. Commissioner Noson.
And Mr. Chairman, the A and O and the Finance Committee both recommend adoption of agenda item 52-5-20.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is there any public comment on this item? Any commissioner discussion? And call roll, please.
Commissioner Dorian,
Yes.
Noson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Glazer,
Yes.
Terwilliger,
Yes.
Geisler,
Yes.
Chairman Bone.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, motion carries.
Committee report number 5, please.
Dated June 4th, properly addressed, ladies and gentlemen. We, your Finance Committee, recommend the approval of the Michigan Department of Treasury for 614, AKA L4029, 2020 tax rate request. Approval of the 2020 tax rate request form authorizes the county operating millage 4.8955 mils to be levied in July. There will be a separate 2020 tax rate request form submitted in the fall to request levy of the remaining taxing authorities in December. Respectfully submitted, Scott Noson, Chairperson, James Geisler, Jeanette Snyder, Finance Committee.
Commissioner Noson.
Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee recommends adoption of agenda item 54-5-20.
Is there any public comment on this item? Is there any commissioner discussion? And call roll, please.
Commissioner Noson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Glazer,
Yes.
Terwilliger,
Yes.
Geisler,
Yes.
Dorian,
Yes.
Chairman Bone.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, motion carries.
Okay, that's it for our standing committee reports. We have no
I-
RPC.
I have
I
a number
believe we have one more.
6.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss one? Oh, yes, we do. We should do that one also.
Okay, perfect. So dated June 4, 2020, properly addressed, ladies and gentlemen. We, your Finance Committee, recommend approval of the request by the Mosquito Control Director to arrange an emergency aerial spray operation due to the recent flooding event. We further recommend the approval of the use of mosquito abatement surplus for this expense. Respectfully submitted, Scott Noson, Chairperson, James Geisler, Jeanette Snyder, Finance Committee.
Commissioner Noson,
Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee recommends adoption of agenda item 55-5-20.
do we have any public comment on this item? Do we have any commissioner discussion?
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe Carl is on the line, and just so everybody knows that there have been a couple of changes made since we had this Finance Committee meeting that adopted this, and I'd like Carl to address those if he could.
Okay, so I'm assuming you're talking about the contracts, the offers that we've received and my recommendation for the contract.
That's correct. Either one is going to require an amendment to this motion. So if you could just summarize the letter.
Certainly, I researched the companies that are adept at doing this kind of emergency spray operation. It's a different type of approach than what we do in our routine spring spray. And so basically I was aware of two different companies that do this kind of work. Clark Mosquito, which had done the Eastern Equine sprays last year, and the company named VDCI, which I was aware of, haven't worked directly with. So I requested and worked with, provided the parameters to both of these companies, asked for an offer on their services, and we received those. I evaluated them with my staff and we discussed it. And so the two offers were with Clark Mosquito Control, and this is all encompassing what we anticipate using their services would come to about $663,000, still based on an estimate because some of the fine details are yet to be worked out. The VDCI quote came out at $609,600. So there was about $53,000 difference in the two. Nevertheless, I'm recommending Clark Mosquito for various reasons. We have a longstanding relationship with this company. They did our aerial spray a number of years ago early on with our spring program. They're a vendor that we utilize each year for material. They are going to be able to bring some expertise, the mapping that we need, but also even a PR specialist that will help us, because sometimes in these situations, if you're doing something very quickly, it can, you need to be really aware of and on your game with your public relations and communication. They are the provider of the material as well. They can speak very well to the material we are applying, which was going to be the same material regardless of the aerial applicator. For those reasons in particular, I am recommending Clark Mosquito. I think either company will do an outstanding job. I'm not concerned with that, but I just thought that given this current situation, I'm most comfortable with Clark.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment now, and I know, as I mentioned here, this is going to have to be amended either way because either one of those bids are over what we estimated in the original Finance Committee proposal. which I think was 550,000. I can't remember exactly. But I'd like to have a little bit of discussion about the choice of the two. $50,000 is a lot of money, and I'm not quite sure. I think there's additional things that Clark was providing that included folks on the ground with additional traps, and I'm not sure what that's used for. So I'd ask Carl to address that. But also I fully understand the PR issues, but I believe our staff has plenty of expertise to handle that within our community. If we can handle a flood and a pandemic, I'm pretty sure we can handle aerial spraying. So Carl, could you just maybe help me understand the folks on the ground, the additional folks on the ground, and what they're actually going to do with Clark?
Sure. We have our biologist, and he has two technicians that would be able to, and we're going to be doing our best to do a trapping before the treatment and after. It's really important to get an idea of some empirical evidence of what did the spray actually do, how much were the mosquito numbers reduced by. But that's a pretty small staff given the fact that we're going to cover approximately 120,000 acres of the county. So in both cases, I asked, what are your capabilities to provide us with extra staff to be able to run traps, identify mosquitoes, and get us a report of this? Both companies are offering that service. With Clark, they had formulated that with an extra fee. So what I'm anticipating utilizing in that case would be about $19,500 for, they had a daily rate for personnel. It's 2 personnel, and they think they can run about 10 traps throughout the spray area, and then also in some areas that were not sprayed for control. That's factored into that 663. In the case of VDCI, I believe they had 2 individuals. They did have 2 individuals as well, but they were not going to charge an extra fee for that service. So that's already worked in. So both of them were going to provide a similar service with regard to that to augment our deficiency in staffing. It's just that Clark is charging for that fee.
Hi, this is Jeanette. I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Go ahead, Jeanette.
Thank you. So I met some constituents out on Lakeview, and it was during the day, and we were getting attacked by mosquitoes. And so I did mention that we may have this coming, which I think was appropriate and okay with my audience. And they were very excited. I'm very excited because as I have these outdoor meetings, there's a lot of mosquitoes in the area, definitely as a result from this. I'll just rely on the experts that that's what it's from. That makes sense. As far as PR, I think I welcome having them do some of that. I think we did a fairly good job with the flood, but I'm getting mixed reviews from my constituents. So I think if we have some PR from them that they're used to doing this, I think that would be great. We still have a lot of people working outside, and they're not on Facebook, and they're not getting the press releases. And I'm going to talk about that in my comments a little more. I do think we've done a good job overall. We've never had a dam failure before. So those are my thoughts. I'm thankful that I know it's a big expense, but I think it's needed.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Sorry, this is Scott. I was out. I did not hear the end of Carl's comments. I got in just at the tail end of Jeanette's comments, so I apologize for that. I assume everybody else heard Carl's comments?
We did.
Yes.
Okay. My problem is I'm periodically losing internet at my house, and I'm not sure why, but
Okay.
so things are a little bit delayed for me as well, but bear with me.
Okay. Okay. Anybody
So
have anything? Anybody
Chairman
have
Nelson.
anything?
Chairman Nelson, may I weigh in?
Yeah,
With regard, excuse me, to the public relations piece on this, if you hearken back to what the state of California went through, this is probably 15 years ago with spraying of the med flies with malathion, I believe was the chemical, and the outrage that that caused with people. I think it's prudent of us to invest in the public relations part of this agenda item. There's an element out there that just is in favor of anarchy. And I think this could address some potential problems that we could have with environmentalists, et cetera. With all due respect.
yeah,
Thank you.
I hear that. I don't buy it. Anarchists will be anarchists, and there's no amount of PR that you can do that's going to satisfy them. I'm trying to be a good steward of the county's money in an environment where I think every dollar is important right now. And the PR component of this, I just don't see this as any more than us doing what we normally do. And addressing questions that come in, and putting out a press release and Facebook comments. In fact, Carl, maybe you can explain to me what PR help we're going to get for $50,000, because that's a PR person for a year.
And let me just clarify, I don't think it's accurate to characterize the 50,000 is only the PR. I think that Clark bid a higher application rate per acre. So that's probably where you're seeing the biggest change is simply they are offering up a slightly higher rate for applications for this is for the entirety of their service, which by the way is actually less than I think 271 was what was charged the state last year for the Eastern Equine encephalitis sprays. We're getting a rate, I haven't figured it recently, I think it's 250 something. So it's less than what was charged last year. So a couple of things in addition, just so that you can weigh these options. I had mentioned and brought up in the letter that accompanied this is that we can, and I've already been in contact with a recommended PR firm. If we determine this is important, I think it is. I recommend having some external support with this. So if we go with VDCI, already stating that they don't have this as an organic capability, Jennifer Holton, who is with MDARD, is their PR specialist, referred me to a PR firm that works with public health agencies throughout the state very frequently. And I've made initial contact with that individual, explained the situation. If we were to, was interested, I have not gotten a quote because I haven't defined exactly what we'd be asking for. And what I look for is primarily assistance to manage us as we go through. We're going to be very busy during this operation. And so I'm not necessarily looking for somebody to push out in front of the media, but somebody who would be able to help me craft our message and our various communications with the public regarding it. And I think some of the concern about, what this might look like has to do with the Eastern Equine encephalitis sprays, which again was Clark again last year with the same material, which is organically labeled. You couldn't find an more environmentally compliant material to apply for adult mosquitoes. Nevertheless, caused a lot of concern in that part of the state. I don't anticipate that level of concern here because we're established. I think we've got a lot of the trust of the public, but this is something that we've not done as a blanket aerial spray in this county for adult mosquitoes. So there's the potential for that. I don't know how it'll look. I don't know that anybody can predict for sure, but I just would be a little more comfortable having some support of that kind. So if, it's determined that the higher rate for Clark is something we would rather not partake in at this point. I would just ask that I be able to explore and come before the board again with some options for some PR support if we do go with VDCI. So I hope that was clear enough.
This is Scott. Just a couple of things. I'm a little confused about the application rate. I don't have the letter in front of me, but I thought the two options were the exact same application rate.
The material cost is the same because it's coming from Clark in either case. So that's set, but the rate for VDCI was 0.87 cents per acre. And in the case of Clark, it's $1.01 per acre application rate, aside from the material cost.
That's not a difference in application rate. That's a difference in cost.
I'm sorry, I'm saying rate as in the cost, that the rate that they charge us to apply the material with their aircraft. So that's $1.01 for Clark, 87 cents for VDCI. That's the difference, the prime difference in the two. Plus Clark is charging for the biology staff, the ground staff. So another $20,000. So there's about $40,000 difference in the cost of application with Clark, and there's the 20,000 approximately additional cost for ground personnel.
So where did the PR cost come from in the Clark?
It's
rolled into the cost of application?
Correct.
Okay, so it's 40,000 versus 50,000 is what you're saying.
It's okay. Yes, well, I guess it'd be about $30,000 difference in the rate per acre cost for the two companies.
Okay, Bridget, could I ask you to respond from a staff standpoint? Because it is my belief that this is PR that could be handled by county staff. If that's not correct, if that's a bad assumption, let me know that.
Well, since you asked, I'm going to be honest. I don't think we have the capacity for it right now. I really don't. You have to remember that the flooding PR was actually handled by 4 of us all at one time. And although that's slowing down, I'm sort of it for PR aside from some social media stuff. And I'm still in the EOC at least 4 hours a day.
Is this something that Cindy could handle?
She's not on contract. You mean Cindy, the newsletter lady?
Yeah.
That's not what we contract with her for. I'm not sure. I mean, she's a newsletter writer. I mean, I can ask her, but I can't.
Okay.
I mean, I will help where I can. I'm just, at this moment, with the other things that we're trying to manage, I don't know how much of my time I can commit to this. I'll help where I can.
Well, let me state it this way, Carl. Would you give me $20,000 if I did it?
You would have a conflict of interest.
No, I would not.
You would. But I'll let Bill weigh in on that.
I'm just saying that it sounds like a lot of money for what I consider a fairly simple task.
I am looking at this as this is a one-time thing that obviously this has never been done previously in the history of our we, as mosquito control is very frugal. You can probably ask a number of folks with the decisions we make. We cut corners, not with service, but financially wherever we can. We're always looking for those opportunities. This is one case where I'm ready to invest in probably the safest bet that I can. And I saw that as Clark, even given the higher rate of cost, it was a one-time deal. Again, I will make it work, and it'll be a good operation either way. But this was my recommendation. I'm willing to pay the extra time one time. I think we've saved, and fortunately we had a reserve of $919,000 is a testament to directors before me and what I have tried to carry forward with our financial responsibility and approach to our department. This is one time I'm ready to invest in something, even if it's a little more costly.
I
And
appreciate that, Carl.
I'd like to weigh in. Is this a cost that may be reimbursable through FEMA? Bridget, you're on mute.
Yes. Well, I was nodding. I didn't know if you wanted more
Okay,
information.
yeah, well, I wanted to hear from you.
Yeah, I was on a call with a consultant on Monday talking about what things could be considered reimbursable expenses. And she actually brought up, because she's helped manage flood response in other communities, she brought up mosquito control, spraying, and fogging as a reimbursable expense. And because with all the water and the mud, it can cause a public health issue. She had no idea that we already had a mosquito abatement program here in Midland. So I said, we are planning on aerial fogging of adult mosquitoes as a way to help address the issue that we know is going to get a lot worse because of the rain and the mud. And she said, make sure you include that in the number and the information to FEMA, because it's a reimbursable expense. So my hope is that at the bare minimum, if FEMA, they have a 75%, 25% reimbursement rate, sometimes that we would get at least 75% of this back.
Okay, thank
I
you.
can't promise it, but
Right,
it's
right.
considered eligible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make a distinction. Whatever happens, we're going to submit it as part of our FEMA proposal, because we want to have as high a number as possible so we can get FEMA resources. Whether we get those resources and we use it against this, I think that's something that can be debated. But whether we go with either one, we're going to submit that, correct, as a FEMA eligible expense.
Yes, it will
Right.
be submitted regardless of the rate and the company that we choose. The money would have to be returned to the mosquito control fund.
Okay, listen, I have made my point clear. I know Mark has weighed in. If others want to weigh in, great. Ultimately, we do have to have an amendment. I'm not prepared yet. I'd like to hear from others before we make an amendment.
I would like to support going with the higher figure.
Is there anybody else that wants to weigh in on this?
Could I say something, please?
Yes, please.
I shared with Clark this link. I think they're watching. They are offering to negotiate the biology assistance rates and responsibility if this is a holdup. So I think they'd be flexible with that $20,000 rate, perhaps, that they were requesting, which is again an estimate, but it was $3,250 a day for 2 personnel. And so anyway, just to throw that out, that probably, I don't know if that helps, then maybe that makes it more complicated at this case. But anyway, that's was offered up by them.
It's a lot of money. Boy, and to think I almost skipped this report.
What happened?
Anybody want to weigh in? Anybody have anything more? Bill, were you counsel?
Yes, I have just a comment. Is that I think we have two bids for the work, and you've got one of the bidders now offering to negotiate before we accept one of the bids. That's not a comfortable position to be in.
I agree.
We should be accepting a bid and then offering negotiations on top after we accept.
It's hard to accept if you don't know what the negotiations are going to end up like.
Well, we know what the maximum would be at that point. You know, I mean, it just, if you accept one or the other bid, then you can go back and maybe talk to them. But they negotiate before we accept the bids is kind of not loyal.
I'm sorry, but I'm confused. This committee report is not accepting any bid. This is just allowing mosquito control director to arrange emergency aerial spraying. So, I mean, I know your discussion about
Yep.
that, but That's not what the committee report says unless we're going to amend that.
And thank you very much for clearing that up, because I think that makes things easier. And then Carl, I would say I have a ton of faith in you. You've done a great job for us, but just do some serious due diligence and make sure where you're at is the right. And I would work on some negotiations if you want to go with Clark. But again, like we said, I trust you. You do a good job. But if we're not approving a company now, it's just letting Carl make the decision. Is that correct, Dan?
Well, that's what the committee report says, that the administrative director is to arrange an emergency aerial spraying operation due to the recent flooding event. It's not selecting anyone.
It is
Just
not.
allowing Carl to make a decision. Is
Right,
really
and
what
if I-
this committee report.
If I may weigh in here just
Bridget,
real
please.
quick.
Bridget,
Well,
go
I
ahead, Jeanette,
sat in,
first.
I'm sorry, I don't want to go out of line, but I sat
You're
in
good.
finance and I know that Carl is diligent and he wants to use some of the money he has laid aside in his budget. So Bridget, can you clarify if that's taking any more out of the general fund? It was my understanding that Carl is going to be able to cover this and make that decision. And I felt very comfortable with that. He always does. He's always very frugal.
Yeah, I can respond to that. So no general fund dollars are going to be spent on this aerial fogging. What will be spent is there will need to be a budget adjustment because this is money that's in the reserve balance in the mosquito control fund. So if you remember, had we only known, hindsight being what it is, we actually reduced the levy for the mosquito control millage this last budget year because we had, we felt comfortable with the amount of money we had in reserves and that we would be able to manage with that and balancing the budget for the next year, maybe two. No one had any idea we would be in the situation we're currently in. So unfortunately, there's about $750,000, I think, in the reserve balance, and we'll be utilizing a good amount of it. That hopefully we have two things that work in our favor. I'm very confident we're going to get a disaster declaration from the president, and that money could be potentially at least a portion of it reimbursed through FEMA resources or federal government resources. The other option that we have is that we're nowhere near the max on our mosquito control levy. We did already reduce it, and we have the potential to increase that in the fall for the December levy if we need to, which I think we will want to, because I think it's important to have at least a couple, probably 3 months worth of annual operating budget in our reserve for some flexibility in cash flow. But that is my position at this time.
I
Hey,
have
Mark,
another
this
re-
is Scott.
Go-
Sorry,
hey,
I got
Let's
cut
keep
out
a little,
again.
hey, let's keep a little order here, okay?
I'm just trying to tell you that I lost connection again,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry. So,
and I don't know what happened after I said somebody has to make an amendment.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Geisler,
yes, I would like to note that time is of the essence in this situation.
Thank you.
understand.
That was going to be my other comment, Mark, was that,
Okay,
I'd actually like Carl to speak to that because the hope was that if we had quotes in time for this meeting, we could make an amendment to the committee report and hopefully get planes in the air next week. If we don't do this today, then we have to go through, we can push this off until the committee meetings next week, and then no planes would be in the air until after the board meeting on the 16th.
okay.
So-
So
Those are some things to consider in the mix of this.
I think that my opinion on this is that we need to go ahead and approve this now. Carl's always done a great job for us. Carl knows he knows we're paying attention to this, and I'm sure Carl will do his best job, and I do think time is of the essence also. So my opinion is we approve it. Carl negotiates, or maybe Carl, he still has the choice to take the other option if it's 50 grand more. So I think we put our trust in Carl and we approve this.
Unless you amend the committee report to say you give him the authorization to choose the bidder, he can't do that because
I would-
it requires a contract and the board has to approve that and sign it.
I would give him the authorization to do that. That's, I forget which committee we're on. Who would that's not up to me. That's up
It's
to.
finance.
Yep, so that would be up to Commissioner Noson if he wants to make that amendment.
Again, I'm gonna ask that somebody tell me what happened when I was gone. I heard Ann talking about something that may or may not be required.
So, so Scott, here's the deal. Basically where we're at right now is Clark had came back. I think they're on the meeting also, and they said they're willing to negotiate the price. And then the next thing is Ann read the committee. Why don't you go ahead and explain the committee report, Ann, if you don't mind?
I know there's lots of discussion about this, but this committee report is not choosing a particular company to do the spraying. The committee report just says that the mosquito control director to arrange an emergency aerial spraying operation due to the recent floodings. So unless we amend this committee report, we're not telling Carl to pick one. I mean, we're not giving him the ability to pick one according to Bridget. It needs to be amended so that Carl can select the aerial spraying is the way I read this, unless we amend it.
And it sounds
Okay,
like.
my
ahead,
understanding is the original amendment was because it was over the predicted amount of 550. Is that not true?
That will also have to be amended. So the question becomes, what level do you want the committee report to have in it? Is it amend the budget up to 660,000, which is the maximum quote that Carl, I think, has received? Or, I mean, I think you have to do that anyway, because we can't spend the money without the budget being amended.
All right, so if I can short circuit this, I'm comfortable with an amendment that says we authorize Carl to make the decision up to $660,000 total. And Carl, use your best judgment to negotiate with Clark to the best you can. I may still vote no on this because of the dollar amount, but the amendment I would like to propose is just that. And Ann, can you maybe just wordsmith that? Does everybody understand?
Well, and what I'd like to weigh in on this a little bit too. So I think this gives Carl the option to use Clark, but he can use the other company also. I think what we're doing is we're giving Carl the opportunity to make the best decision for the county, which I believe Carl will do. And I'm comfortable giving him the power to do that. And so we still have two companies as an option for Carl. It'll be Carl's decision to make afterwards. And that's the way I see it.
I would also note that it is.
So there's two elements of the.
We're losing you, Scott.
Scott, turn your video off.
Go ahead, Bridget.
Okay, sorry. I would just
Yeah.
recommend that it's an expectation, and maybe it goes without saying, but that it's an expectation that Carl report back to the board once a final number has been negotiated and a decision has been made.
Definitely, for sure.
And
I'm
this is
fine with
Gay.
that.
I would agree with that, Bridget. Thank you very much. We need to hear back what was done at the next meeting, and that would be on June 16th, correct?
No, I
And-
would like him to update you by
At
email
committee?
before then.
Okay,
Right. Next week, once the decision's been made.
okay. ASAP, as soon as possible when he has made his decision, either way, so that perhaps, and then we can discuss it in committee. Thank you.
Okay, so I would officially like to propose an amendment to the motion that says the dollar value is 660, no more than 660. And we give Carl the decision-making authority to select between the whichever vendor he'd like.
Thank you.
I
Carl?
think I need a second on that. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, Carl wants to talk and so.
Just to clarify, the Clark bid as it stands, well, right now, what I was anticipating was $663,000. This, keep in mind that the acreage right now is an estimate. It may go higher, so we could exceed that. So I know. And furthermore, I had hoped to have both bids in before committee met earlier this week, because I wanted to be able to provide you with not only can we do this, but here's my recommendation for a contractor. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. And so it put me in the position of getting the contracts, having to assess them, and then provide a recommendation between the committee, the finance committee, and the board meeting. So that's some of the difficulty, but this is an emergency situation that I anticipated that we might be in this. So
So
there's
what
a lot
level
of,
would you be comfortable with, Carl? 700,000?
yes.
All right.
That's the maximum I'm comfortable with, actually, because of the balance in the reserve.
Right. All right. So that's the amendment, 700,000, and Carl has the ability to decide.
Support.
Is there any other commissioner discussion on this? Ann, call roll, please. You're muted.
You're on
Ann.
mute, Ann.
And you're
Ann,
muted.
You're on mute. There you go.
All right. All right. Sorry about that. I'm trying to type the minutes and be in the meeting at the same time. It's all right. So Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Glazer,
Yes.
Terwilliger,
Yes.
Geisler,
Yes.
Dorian,
Yes.
Noson,
Yes.
Chairman Bone.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no to make the amendment to the committee report. I have amended the committee report to add the language to allow the mosquito control director to spend up to $700,000 and that the administrator controller is to amend the budget. Is that okay?
believe we
or do you
have
want
to-
anything else?
That's fine, but I believe we have to now vote on the motion, correct?
That is correct. I just wanted to let you know how I changed the committee report.
Yep.
Okay. If everybody's okay with that, then I move to approve the motion.
Support.
Ann, call roll, please. You're on mute.
All right, let's try this again. Commissioner Glazer,
Yes.
Commissioner Terwilliger,
Yes.
Commissioner Geisler,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorian,
Yes.
Commissioner Noson,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Chairman Bone.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, motion carries.
Now I'm pretty sure we're done with the standing committee report. So we have no RPCs. We have no old business. We have no new business that I'm aware of. So we're going to move right to commissioner comments, and we're going to start with Commissioner Terwilliger. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. It's kind of catching in. First of all, I'd like to say what a great team effort to iron out that last, I don't want to call it a dilemma, but it was a conundrum, and we did it on Zoom. And thank you, Carl, for your patience, and thanks to all of you for the input. Not easily done. I want to welcome back all of our employees that returned on Monday. Glad to have you back. Welcome back, team. And looking forward to ironing out. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Geisler.
I'm just happy to be back. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorian.
Just like to echo Commissioner Terwilliger's comments in her invocation, as well as the observations that she just articulated. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Noson.
Yeah, I just like to thank our foundations again, for this particular issue, but also for the particular issue being the multi-generational room, but also their contributions and coming contributions for this this disaster that we're working our way through. So thank you all, the foundations. We're blessed in this community.
Thank you. Commissioner Snyder.
Hi, so I like to echo Gay's comments. It's been an amazing team effort. I know there's a few commissioners where this hit our areas especially hard, in the city and out in the county by me, and then touching Mark's district. I've been talking to the constituents, and I did just want to share that here. They had 3 big concerns, and I just want to make everybody aware, since I think this is a good forum to do it. They're still concerned about getting rid of waste. And I know that Jennifer has talked to townships and said, you know, you need to have a plan in place to take care of this. And unfortunately, in being at the township meetings, I'm aware that they barely get their regular waste picked up. It's very lean in the companies they have chosen, and they need to increase those costs, and they're aware of it. The major concern is we actually have homes we need to get rid of, so our big equipment is not working. So that's a major concern, just to keep up morale. I talk with the fire chiefs, and they're very in touch with our community and know what keeps up morale. So I look to them as the experts. Also, in touching with the community foundations, perhaps having a flood disaster fund. I know that we can't just give everybody a check, but frankly, that's what a lot of them need. And they're not getting that from insurance and other things. And also, they want to have some type of town hall meeting, have it on TV. It's very hard for them to receive the press releases that have been put out. And I know the city put out one at Woodcrest, and I know that that was emotional, and it was quite a show at times. And that's unfortunate, because a lot of the people that went wanted to get good information. So I know it's always a little, you know, do we put out a meeting with knowing we'll have some very vocal situations? But I think for the most part, people want to hear from us and hear the plans and paths forward. And we're still figuring that out. Maybe we don't have clear plans and paths, you know, or it's a disaster, and we haven't dealt with this significance. So we're figuring it out as well. And that's been what I've been telling them as well. But I did just want to let you know that I'm constantly meeting and talking to people, and these are the repeated comments that I'm getting. But I am so thankful. I'm thankful I have the privilege. They let me come, and they want me to thank our volunteer firefighters and people on the front lines. And I'm just so thankful that it's very humbling to, how do you say thank you for everything they've done. So, and thank you to Bridget and Jennifer and our EOC. It's been good overall. It's been good overall. I think we've learned some things, and I know we'll apply them in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Snyder. And I do believe that there is a flood relief fund, disaster fund. I believe that's being administered through the Midland Area Community Foundation, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
So that's so there is that out there. So Commissioner Glazer. Commissioner Glazer.
Yes, I guess I would echo the comments that have been put forth. I don't have anything new to add.
Thank you. And the only thing I would say is Scott took one of them. Thank you to the foundations. It's amazing what they do for us. And the next thing I'm going to say is my hearts go out to the people that have been devastated by this flood. It's a tragedy, and we'll get through it. Hopefully we'll get these lakes filled back up. It's going to be a long process, but I know I'm committed to working through it and making this happen. So it's challenging times, a lot of people out of homes, and it's just, my hearts go out to them. My hearts go out to them. That's about it. So we'll move on to commissioner meeting schedules and start with Commissioner Twilliger.
There we go. I did want to just make one minor addition. Actually, it's not minor, but District 4 was actually impacted by the flooding as well in Midland Township, coming right down Poseyville Road. And it was actually more significant than it was in 1986. So I did want to make mention of that they were impacted as well. For meetings, I have June 11th, a Pinecrest regularly scheduled meeting. It will be Zoom. Additionally, on June 15th, there will be another Pinecrest meeting, which will be a closed session meeting. And I believe I will have a senior services meeting that day as well, but they have not been as timely on getting out correspondence, regrettably. And I will report back later on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Geisler?
A&O on the 9th at 2:30 and executive committee on the 16th.
Thank you. And then we will move on to Commissioner Dorian.
Human Services is canceled for Monday, the 8th. So cancellation of that meeting due to lack of business. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Nosen?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just have the Finance Committee on the 9th from 1:30 to 2:30. And I'm going to be signing off now because I have to sign on to a MAC board meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Nosen. Commissioner Snyder?
Hi, so I have 4 Lakes Task Force meetings that pop up. So far I have one scheduled for the 5th. I am going to start going to on the 9th I have Eatonville, on the 10th I have Jerome. On the 11th, I have the Road Commission. I haven't been missing any of those meetings with everything they have going on. And on the 15th, I have Warrentown. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Glazer?
Yes, Monday, the 8th at 7 o'clock, I have Lee Township. Tuesday evening, 6:30 Greendale, and 7:30 or thereabouts, it'll be Jasper Townships. This will be the first that I've been going. I will plan to attend since the COVID outbreak. And then on, I know we have a special meeting of the Public Works, and I want to say that's on Thursday, the 11th. I think that's it. But we do have a special meeting of the Department of Public Works to approve a Lee Township refinancing package. So that will be happening. I'm pretty sure it's Thursday evening, the 11th. And that will be all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I actually have nothing to announce before my next meeting, or before our next board meeting. In that board meeting, this says it's June 9th. Is that correct? Or we have an executive June 9th there? I'm thinking it's the 16th, correct?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So at this point, I take a move to adjourn. A motion to adjourn, excuse me.
So moved.
Do we have support? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, the same. This meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, June 16th, 2020 at 9 a.m. to meet in an executive session of the Board of Commissioners and for the committees to resume their duties. Everybody stay safe, have a good day, and prayers to all the flood victims.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.